Welcome back, guys. This is another video from the MWR channel. Today we're going to look at something that's way overdue. It's the A5AR MWR kits for the Tippmann A5. These are different parts that we've created over the time. Before we did TMC stuff, we actually created all sorts of different parts for the A5 marker, which allowed you to make all sorts of different AR type paintball markers. And today we're going to look at two different options. The first one here is the engineer kit. That's a pre-made kit on the MWR website. So when you go on there, you can buy exactly what you see here. So you have a handguard, a upper receiver, a magazine, a stock, and a lower receiver. The second kit we're going to look at is going to be a custom kit when you go on the other page that allows you to pick every single part. So you can pick a receiver, you can pick a handguard, you pick a magazine, stock, and a lower receiver, all independently, and other parts if you want. And you can make very different markers because of those custom options. Another thing that's worth looking at is which kind of A5 you own and which kind of A5 you want to use for this build. So I have two examples here. The first one, and this one is the one that we're going to cover in the video. We're going to use this one to build our two kits. It's a new gen A5 and it has the new gen grip and the new gen body. So what's important with that is when you pick your lower receiver, you want to pick the one that matches your trigger housing style. So this is an old gen, this is a new one, and they have some quite major differences of where the trigger guard will be. So when you choose your lower receiver, you want to choose the right one. So this one is made for the new gen, so the trigger lines up a little bit lower, and then if you try it on this, it just wouldn't look good at all. So these holes line up here, but the trigger guard does not. So that's the first thing, is you want to grab the right receiver. So that's an option when you select something that has a lower receiver on the A5. It always asks you, do you have the old or the new? The other thing about the old A5 that you need to worry about is this little front lip. The new one doesn't have that. The lip was part of the little grip that was there, and it's removable. If you have this old style, you'll need to remove this with a hacksaw. If you want to put our handguard adapter, it won't fit with that lip, and it will fit without the lip, so you'll need to remove that. Another thing that's pretty cool to note is that the kits do work with a response trigger, so if you do have that, feel free to purchase the kit anyways. So let's get on to the build. So now that you got your build manual open, we can take a look at the first step. The first step is to remove the lip on the old Gen A5. In this case, we don't need to do that, so we can skip to the second step, which is not included in the manual, is removing the cyclone. It's not necessary, you don't have to, but I think it just makes everything a little bit easier, so I will go ahead and remove that. I will keep the screw here because that will be important for later, and then I'm going to remove the two screws that are on the mag release that are kind of pre-assembled for you, so you know where those screws go, but in the manual it doesn't say to remove them. But if you do leave them, you won't be able to feed the lower receiver onto the marker. It will block at the remote line. So, other thing, remove the pins. While doing that, try to keep this screw in there. The hole here is for tightening the screw, but it doesn't allow the screw to come out. So if you forget to put the screw in there, you're gonna have to restart your build. Put the push pins in. That's the first step done. There you go. The second step will be to take your upper receiver, and notice how there's kind of a slide down action on the manual. So make sure to feed in the cocking handle first through the slot at an angle upwards like this, and then push it a bit forward, and don't forget to remove the pins in the back as well. There you go. Yeah, let's remove that for now. We'll come back to that later. We'll leave the pins out, we'll do the stock before we put those pins in. The next thing will be the handguard. So you remove these screws from your marker and you won't need them anymore. So we'll get the handguard ready. There's two screws that come out. Usually those are placed in the right place for you. A new thing that we've done is added these two little spacers. So that's not in the manual either. We'll try to add them soon. You put these into these slots for the original A5 screws. They really help clamp this to the body properly. You just slide that on like this. In case of having a longer handguard, you might want to put your barrel first, but in this case, for the shorty handguard, it's fine. You can put your barrel after, unless it's really, really short. Go ahead and tighten those two. And then there's also two screws at the bottom, which are not super necessary. They might help you if you have a longer handguard to keep everything straight, but for this case, we're not going to put them. So those are the two screws at the bottom. And now it asks you to put the mag release back on. So it goes this way with the little grooves facing towards the grip. So just one screw on each side. This is a passive mag release. It doesn't automatically latch back. You have to manually set the mag release into position on the mag. It shouldn't move freely like that. Next step is to put on the stock and the cyclone back on. So we're going to start with the stock. So this is the collapsible SMG style stock. It has 3 positions and you have to move this little latch to get them to move along the rod. So once it clicks into place, the latch will hold into one of these grooves. To put on the stock, you need to have it to the fully extended position. It also has an O-ring for a better seal. Pin, push rod and spring, guide pin, and put on the thumb pins. They should slide in pretty nicely. If they don't, there's a little trick that I like to do. You can loosen this screw under here while you're putting in the pins. You put in the pins or align the aluminum rods, and then once they're in, you can tighten this one and that should keep its position. And then every time you take off the stock, it should slide in pretty easily. So that's the extended position on there. I'm gonna give it a tug, usually with your shoulder. That's the fully retracted position. So that's pretty much the MWR A5AR kit. So you put that in there and lock it into place. The last step is to add this little guy once we got the cyclone on, so don't forget that. You put your air, connect that into this, let's do it. And then you still have access to your velocity changer, and you can cover that with you can move this little port to cover stuff. Gives it a cool look. So now that you've got the cyclone tightened, you can add this little connection. Stick your Allen key nice and deep in there. And your marker is complete. It's the engineer kit. You can add some optics on there, grip. Looks pretty cool with that. For barrel choice, I like to run short barrel. Gives it a nice cool look. If you want something a little bit more stealthy looking, you can slide on a mock suppressor like this. Squeeze. You got your suppressed A5AR SMG. Mag remains removable at all times because it's not necessary. And then we'll play some paintball. We're going to disassemble this and then we're going to look at the other custom A5AR. Right, so we're back to square one with the basic A5, and I've left the upper receiver because we're going to be reusing it. So in this kit, I wanted to do something a little bit different. There's a longer handguard. It's a 250mm Bravo handguard. And we also have the classic MWR stock with the mount, but we've also added the MWR drop-down adapter. So we're gonna be looking at that in this video as well. And instead of having a mag on this one, I went with the low profile lower receiver. So this one does not accept fake mag, and it gives the marker a really sleek, super minimalistic look, but also quite nice and lengthy. So we're going to skip the first part because I've picked the same upper receiver. It is the upper receiver Bravo for the A5AR. So we're going to leave that on, and then we're going to add the lower receiver as our first step. So again, keep in mind to leave the cyclone screw in there. There you go. So that's the first step done. Second step would be to put on this, and then the third step would be to put on the handguard. I'm going to put on the little spacers again. Oh, and there's also a screw at the bottom here that's pre-placed. I'm going to use it this time. So from the bottom, we use only one of the two. Two is a bit overkill. It already looks pretty cool. Next step will be stock. Forgot to mention, the stock pins are aluminum. These are specially made for these stocks. Pin. So it might be a little tricky, so I'm gonna put myself in a weird position. There you go. Forgot to put the barrel first. I think it'll still go on there. Now that is a marker. One last thing that you can add on this marker if you want to, and it is included when you buy the low profile lower, is this bottom rail that you can add much closer to the center of gravity. So you can add some type of grip a little bit closer to the center of gravity. One nice thing also that we have is this cyclone loader offset. It gives it a nice view of your optics. This will, keep everything in sight. Just that much is enough to see through your optic. Before that, you couldn't really see. Half of it was covered. So I quite like that. I hope that you like this coverage of our A5AR kit system. It's pretty modular, so there's a lot more options that you can do. There's shorter and longer barrels even. There's a SMG and a rifle style magazine that you can use. We showed the SMG and the low profile. There's different stocks. There's short ones, there's the collapsible one. The drop stocks are an option. There's also a stock mount that doesn't have this AR style fake charging handle. So if you don't want the whole kit, you can buy just the mount that kind of fits the body of the A5 with the rounded top. It's a lot more, low-key than this one. And that's pretty much it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that cleared up a lot of questions that you guys had about this kit, and we'll continue to do more stuff in the future. We're gonna finish some TMC things, and then we're gonna move on to a different marker that I know you guys are very excited about. So I hope to see you there if you haven't gotten anything yet because you're waiting for that. That's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.